Hello. In the framework of the Eltab project, we will describe how the sensor controller module shown here that connects a number of medical sensors like temperature sensors, galvanic skin sensors, etc. Um, and a gateway, which is actually a laptop that you can see here. These two modules have to communicate with each other, and a router is used, as you can see at the top left position of this picture. Uh, each one of these modules can be connected to the router either wirelessly or in a wired manner. For example, the laptop is connected in the current evaluation in a wireless manner, while the sensor controller, which is actually based on a Raspberry Pi module, is controlled both through the wired Ethernet interface and through its wireless interface. At the end of the Eltab project, the sensor controller will communicate with the gateway only with a wireless manner. The wired manner used in this evaluation is only used here in order to have some terminals on the laptop and control the operation of the sensor module. As you can see here, the sensor controller consists of a number of boards connected one on top of the other. At the bottom we can see the Raspberry Pi module. Then an Arduino bridge is connected on its top. And on the top of the Arduino board, there is the eHealth module that is currently evaluated. The eHealth module by Libelia is giving options of connecting a number of medical sensors and controlling them. Between the eHealth board and the Arduino bridge, there is the Wi-Fi module, which is an RN171 wireless module, and this module is currently evaluated here. You can see some other views of the connection in this picture, and then closing the pictures, we can describe how the communication can be done using a proposed protocol that is described in a relevant specification document. First of all, we have to say that the communication between the Raspberry Pi module and the gateway will be done through FTP. In order to have the FTP operating, we simply can deactivate the firewall, or in a more sophisticated approach, we can simply do an exception in the firewall module. In this evaluation here, we have fully deactivated the firewall, and we also have to have an FTP server. FileZilla server is used here, which is gonna be operating on the gateway in order to accept client FTP commands from the sensor controller. Now we're gonna start the FTP, the Raspberry Pi module. We're gonna connect to this. We can open a PuTTY module. The actual local address of the Ethernet interface of the Raspberry Pi is this one here. We use PuTTY in order to set up a screen geometry at the Raspbian operating system that is going to appear in a minute. We don't need Pi Raspberry anymore. We can start, or we can search Pyth VNC. the address is correct, so I connect and give the password I have set up, and the Raspbian operating system environment appears. Through this environment, we can fully control the Raspberry Pi and get the debug messages of the communication procedure. For example, I can open an LX terminal here. What I see here is what actually runs at the sensor controller, which is the Raspberry Pi module. I open two terminals and I move to the directory, to the working directory. And at the working directory, I can start the compiled code that implements the communication protocol between the sensor controller and the gateway. Eltab is the name of the executable. Now, we can see here several messages that are going to appear. I will also have open the FTP server at the top left of the screen. As you can see at the terminal at the bottom right, first of all, the code that I have prepared sets up some IP parameters for the network in order to connect in a wireless manner to the router. And now some FTP methods are used. The FTP, the address of the gateway is a static one and ends at the number 20, while the wireless interface of the connector of the Raspberry, which is the sensor connector, is also given a static address which ends at 19. Now the configuration of the FTP has been completed. Some usernames and passwords have been given in order to log in to the FTP server, and then these options have to be saved, and the Wi-Fi module has to be reboot. The reboot takes place now, as you can see at the bottom right here. Now, the reboot has been completed, and after the reboot, the protocol txt file is retrieved, is attempted to be retrieved by the FTP server. The sensor controller has not been connected yet to the FTP server, as you can see at the top left here. Now the connection has been done. Here is the name of the protocol that has been received. Protocol.txt is called. And then this file that has been received by the gateway is been analyzed locally is been parsed, let me say, to the sensor controller. And you can see some messages here showing what were the contents of the protocol.txt file. If I open at the side of the receiver of the gateway the protocol.txt, you can see here that the first line defines some RAM parameters. For example, run and use 100 milliseconds between each sampling of the fastest sampled sensor. When the slowest sensor has been sampled, then an interval which is set up at 10,000 milliseconds, which is 10 seconds actually, will be given such a delay in order to complete the transmission of a data file from the sensor controller to the FTP server, and then this protocol txt file will be read again, because the application software may change this protocol and change the commands given to the sensor controller. What else has been given here in this protocol txt file? You can see here some comments. Each comment starts with a double dash, and then each sensor is controlled by two lines. The second line of each sensor is reserved for future use. The number at the first line that corresponds to each sensor determines the number of intervals, like the 100 milliseconds defined here, that will be used between successive samples. For example, if we give for the SpO2 sensor the number 0, this means that this sensor won't be sampled at all. If we give the number 10 at the airflow sensor, that means that 10 multiplied by 100, which is 1000 milliseconds, will be used as an interval between successive airflow sensor samplings. Now, let's go back after closing the protocol file to what happens at the Raspberry Pi. You can see here, let me wait for a while and see here, after the pause ends, the sampling of the various sensors. The last operation performed at the FTP server, as you can see here, was reading of the protocol.txt file that we explained and described earlier. Now, when this protocol is read, the sensor controller understands that he has to sample some he has to get some samples from the sensors in the way described in the protocol.txt file. Now, the contents of the file were given here, and some messages are scrolled, showing also that these lines here, that some sensors have been sampled. Now, as you can see here, some data files are sent to the sensor, to the FTP server. The communication with the FTP server is going on at this moment, as you can see here, and when it is going to end, this message will disappear. The Wi-Fi module used at the side of the Raspberry Pi module ends the transmission of such a file after a timer. The timer has been set at several seconds, because the communication is relatively slow, so that we can guarantee that all the messages that have to be written in this data file have already been written before the FTP client at the side of the Raspberry Pi module marks the end of the transmission of this file. We are still waiting to complete all the message transmission and the closing of the data 0001.txt file. Now this file has been closed, and now, as you can see down here, the protocol.txt will be read again. There's some pause here. Now the protocol txt, as you can see here, has been read again, and the same commands will be continuously executed until the commands given in the protocol.txt file are changed. For example, in order to end this demonstration, after starting to sample the sensors as we will going to see at the bottom right terminal, we are waiting for the parsing of the protocol.txt file to be done and then the sampling to start. Here's the parsing and here's the sampling that started. Meanwhile, we're gonna go back to the FTP server and change the protocol and add at the beginning of a line starting with capital S and a very large number, for example 1 million. What this means is that the module is gonna send to sleep for a very large number or whatever we like here, and the rest of the file is gonna be ignored if this command is given at the beginning. Now, what is going on here is that the data file data0002.txt is being transmitted at the moment. So we're gonna wait here for the transmission of this file to end. This file has end, and now the protocol is gonna be read again, but this time the first line of the protocol will send the Raspberry Pi to sleep for the predefined interval. Okay, so the protocol I think has been read. Okay, this is the protocol message and it's gonna be analyzed, but since it's gonna be found that it commands the sensor controller module to sleep, it won't do anything, and the messages here will pause in a while. So let's wait to see how this file will be parsed. Okay, these are the contents of the protocol.txt. And what the last message says here is that sleep was detected for 1 million milliseconds, which is 1000 seconds. So I'm gonna terminate here the program. There's no pending connection here at the file server. And let's compare what data have been stored both locally through the top left terminal here. You can see that there have been conducted 3 data.txt files, data 0, data 1, data 2, and at the side of the FTP server, which is the laptop that this video is captured, we also have these 3 data files here. Let's open, for example, better use a Word pad to view the contents of this file, and let's also see the contents of this file at this terminal. So we see that the first sampled was the airflow the airflow sensor, then the galvanic skin sensor, then the airflow 2 times. If we view the contents of the same file that was transferred to the file server, to the FTP server, we can see exactly the same contents. Thank you very much.